There comes a moment in life where you have to decide if you want peace or if you want to keep entertaining chaos. Toxic people thrive on reaction, on pulling you into their storm, on testing how much of your energy they can drain before you notice. And the truth is, the moment you decide to stop feeding that cycle is the moment you break their power over you. Here's the simple truth. You don't have to fight. You don't have to argue. You don't have to prove your point. The one thing you can do that will make toxic people think twice about coming near you again is this: stand firm, stay silent, and walk away without explanation. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They're about protecting yourself. When you calmly set a boundary and then back it up with action, you show that you can't be manipulated, you can't be guilted, and you can't be dragged into battles that don't serve you. Silence, paired with consistency, becomes your loudest answer. When a toxic person sees that they can no longer get a rise out of you, no longer push your buttons, no longer shake your sense of worth, they lose interest. Because what they want most is your energy. And when you stop handing it over, the game ends for them. It takes courage to choose not to explain yourself. It takes strength to walk away once and let your absence be the final word. But the moment you do this, you send a clear message. I respect myself too much to keep engaging with poison. And that is the shift. Not shouting, not fighting, not proving, just presence. Just calm, just silence. Do it once with conviction and you'll notice toxic people start to distance themselves, not because you force them to, but because they realize they can't reach you anymore. Setting unshakable boundaries is not about being harsh, cold, or unkind. It is about being firm in what you allow into your life and what you refuse to entertain. Toxic people thrive on testing limits, pushing buttons, and crossing lines. They want to see how far they can go, how much of your peace they can take, and how much of your energy they can drain before you finally notice. But when you set boundaries that are clear and non-negotiable, you draw a line in the sand that tells them, this is where it stops. And the power of that line is not in how loudly you declare it, but in how consistently you hold it without apology. You don't need to explain why you won't tolerate disrespect. You don't need to justify why you won't answer the phone past a certain hour, why you won't engage in arguments that go in circles, or why you refuse to allow someone to talk down to you. Explanations open doors for debate, and toxic people love debates because debates give them opportunities to manipulate and twist your words. A firm boundary, delivered calmly and followed with consistent action, doesn't need explanation. It stands on its own. Boundaries are not for them. Boundaries are for you. They remind you of your worth. They remind you that your time, energy, and mental space are valuable. And when you act on them, you are training both yourself and others on how you deserve to be treated. That kind of self-respect is powerful because it sends a message that you cannot be swayed by guilt, fear, or pressure. Toxic people feed off those emotions, and when you take them off the table, you take away their power. The key is to deliver your boundaries with calm certainty. No anger, no defensiveness, just clarity. You don't need to raise your voice, you need to raise your standards. And when you do, something shifts. The people who are healthy and supportive will respect those standards. The people who are toxic will either get frustrated and walk away, or they'll realize they can't push you the way they used to. Either way, you win because your peace stays intact. It won't always feel easy at first. Setting boundaries often comes with discomfort, especially if you are used to pleasing people, avoiding conflict, or keeping the peace at the expense of your own well-being. But over time, you will see that the temporary discomfort of holding the line is far less painful than the chaos of letting others walk all over you. And here's the truth. Once you set that standard, you'll notice something powerful. Toxic people will think twice before coming near you again. They sense strength. They sense resolve. They sense that you are no longer a place where their chaos can thrive. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors. They don't block everyone out. They let the right people in and keep the wrong people from overstaying their welcome. And when you learn to lock that door to toxicity without guilt or apology, you'll discover a freedom that no argument, no explanation, and no fight could ever give you. So, set your boundaries, stand by them, and remember, you owe no one an apology for protecting your peace. Responding with calm silence is one of the strongest tools you can use when dealing with toxic people. They feed on reactions, whether it's anger, frustration, or defensiveness. The moment you raise your voice, the moment you explain yourself endlessly, the moment you let their words push you out of character, they win. Because their goal was never understanding, it was always control. They don't need the truth, they need the thrill of knowing they could get under your skin, and that's why silence is so powerful, because it starves them of the very thing they came for. Calm silence doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean you're ignoring what's happening or pretending not to see the manipulation. It means you are refusing to let their chaos dictate your peace. You're making a conscious decision not to hand over your energy to someone who doesn't deserve it. Silence is a boundary in itself, and it communicates more than words ever could. It tells them, I am not playing this game with you. Most toxic people are experts at drawing you into conflict. They know which words cut deepest, which insults sting, which accusations trigger you, and the natural urge is to defend yourself, to argue, to prove them wrong. But what happens when you don't take the bait? What happens when you let the comment hang in the air and you sit in calm silence instead? The power shifts. They lose their grip because the fire of their words only spreads if you give it oxygen. When you withhold your reaction, the fire dies out on its own. This doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you choose the strength of restraint over the weakness of reaction. Calm silence is not avoidance. It's strategy. It's control. It's you saying, I decide when and how I engage. And that level of control makes you unshakable. Because when someone realizes that their words, their tone, and their games cannot move you, they stop trying. You become untouchable to their chaos. It will not always feel natural at first. Your mind will want to respond. Your pride will want to defend. Your emotions will want to lash out. But every time you choose silence, you are training yourself to master self-control. And self-control is the very thing toxic people cannot handle. They cannot stand stillness. They cannot stand when their storm doesn't move you. That's why silence is not empty. It is full of strength. When you hold your peace in moments of provocation, you send a clear message. You don't control me. And that message echoes louder than any argument ever could. Toxic people may try again, but eventually they will tire out. Why? Because a game with no opponent isn't fun anymore. They can't keep playing if you refuse to pick up the pieces. So when faced with chaos, remember this. Calm silence is not the absence of a response. It is the presence of power. It starves manipulation, it disarms conflict, and it protects your energy. Use it once with conviction, and you'll notice that the people who thrive on your reaction won't find a home in your presence again. Detaching from their approval is one of the most freeing choices you will ever make. Toxic people hold their influence not through truth, but through the weight you give to their words. They criticize, they mock, they judge, and they belittle, hoping You'll bend under the pressure and shape yourself to their opinions. As long as you crave their approval, they have leverage over you. But the moment you decide their validation is not the currency you live by, their power collapses. Their opinions no longer define you because you've stopped giving them weight. Here's the reality. Someone's opinion of you is not your identity. It doesn't matter how loudly they speak, how confidently they accuse, or how sharply they judge. Their view is just that, a view. It is filtered through their own insecurities, fears, and brokenness. When you internalize their negativity, you're essentially renting out space in your mind to someone who doesn't even deserve to be there. Detaching means reclaiming that space. It means saying, you don't get to decide my worth. You don't get to shape my self-esteem. I do. When you stop chasing approval, you stop being controlled. Toxic people thrive on your need to be liked, on your fear of being misunderstood, on your desperation to explain yourself. They dangle acceptance in front of you like bait, pulling it back the moment you reach for it. But once you recognize the game, you realize you don't have to play. You don't have to convince them of your goodness. You don't have to prove your intentions. You don't have to fight to be seen in the right light. Approval from the wrong person is just another form of manipulation, and letting it go sets you free. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring altogether. It means you shift your focus. Instead of being tied to their opinion, you anchor yourself in your own values. You measure your worth by how true you are to your principles, not by how loud someone else's judgment sounds. You become grounded, unshakable, because your sense of self no longer swings back and forth with every word they throw at you. It may sting at first. Words have power, especially when they come from people close to you. But pain lessens when you stop giving it permission to take root. Remind yourself that not every voice deserves an audience. Not every opinion deserves a response. And not every judgment deserves a place in your heart. The ones who truly matter will see your worth without you begging for it. The rest will only notice they've lost their grip on you. Detaching from approval doesn't just silence toxic voices, it amplifies your own. It gives you clarity, confidence, and peace. It teaches you that validation was never something you had to chase. It was something you could always give yourself. And once you understand that, toxic people lose the very weapon they've been using against you. So let them talk, let them judge, let them misunderstand. Their words can't hurt you when you've stopped giving them weight. Your worth doesn't live in their approval. It lives in your truth. And once you detach from their grip, you'll find a freedom they can't take away. Thank you. Standing in self-respect is the foundation of protecting yourself from toxic people. When you carry yourself with quiet confidence, you no longer need to argue, explain, or prove. Your presence communicates more than any long speech ever could. Toxic people thrive on tearing others down because they can sense insecurity. They push hardest when they feel you doubt yourself. When you're desperate to defend your worth, but when you know who you are, when you stand in self-respect, their attacks fall flat. Confidence is a shield that doesn't require words. It requires posture, consistency, and an unshakable sense of value. Self-respect is not arrogance. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about knowing that you deserve to be treated with dignity and refusing to settle for less. It means you don't allow disrespect to pass as a joke. You don't allow manipulation to pass as love, and you don't allow control to disguise itself as care. Self-respect sets the tone for how others treat you, and the truth is, people can feel it. They can feel when you value yourself, and they can feel when you don't. When you stand in self-respect, your boundaries feel natural. You don't have to over-explain them. You don't have to beg someone to honor them. You simply state them and live by them, because you know your worth doesn't come from anyone's approval. Toxic people struggle with this because they can't find a weak spot to exploit. They throw insults, they spread doubt, they question your motives, but none of it sticks because your identity isn't up for debate. Confidence doesn't need to be loud. Some of the most powerful people are the quietest in the room. They don't waste energy on proving themselves. They let their character, their actions, and their presence do the talking, and that's what makes them untouchable to toxicity. A toxic person can argue all day, but they cannot shake someone who stands firm in self-respect. Of course, standing in self-respect doesn't happen overnight. It comes from practice. It comes from catching yourself in moments where you normally shrink, apologize too much, or let someone cross a line. It comes from reminding yourself, I am allowed to take up space. I am allowed to say no. I am allowed to demand respect without guilt. The more you practice it, the stronger it grows until it becomes second nature. And here's the beauty of it. When you live in self-respect, you attract healthier connections. People who are genuine, kind, and respectful are drawn to your energy, while those who thrive on chaos and control naturally pull away. Why? Because self-respect exposes toxicity. It shines a light on it. It makes it impossible for manipulation to thrive. So stand tall even when someone tries to cut you down. Keep your voice steady even when they try to provoke you. Let your confidence be the message, let your silence be the answer, and let your self-respect be the standard. Toxic people will realize quickly that you are not someone to play with, because you don't bend for their games. And once they see that, they won't come near you again. Thank you. Choosing presence over battle is one of the smartest ways to protect yourself from toxic people. Not every situation requires a fight. Not every comment deserves a response. And not every argument needs your attendance. Toxic people are masters at baiting you into conflict because conflict is their playground. They throw out words designed to spark your emotions, to pull you into a tug-of-war where the only outcome is exhaustion. The moment you choose to step back and stay grounded in your presence, instead of diving into the battle, you take away their advantage. Presence is strength. It's the ability to be fully aware of what's happening without letting it drag you into chaos. When you are present, you see the insult for what it is, a desperate attempt for control. You see the provocation for what it is, an invitation to waste your energy. And you also see your choice clearly. You can either step into the mess and lose your peace, or you can remain calm, centered, and focused, refusing to be pulled into a fight that was never worth having in the first place. It's not about ignoring problems or pretending issues don't exist. It's about discernment. Not every problem deserves the same level of energy. Some things require action, while others only require composure. A toxic person thrives when you give everything the same weight, but when you choose presence, you decide where your energy goes. You refuse to let them dictate the terms of engagement. You show them that your peace of mind is more valuable than proving a point. Presence doesn't shout, it doesn't argue, it doesn't scramble to be heard. Presence says, I see you, I hear you, but I won't lose myself trying to win against you. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Because battles with toxic people are designed for you to lose. Even if you win the argument, you lose time, peace, and emotional energy, and they win simply because they got you to show up. Refusing to attend that battle is the real victory. Think of it this way: when someone throws you an invitation to chaos, you have the option to decline. You don't owe them a seat at your table. You don't owe them a reaction that cost you your balance. The most powerful thing you can do is simply not show up to the fight. They can yell, they can throw accusations, they can try to pull you in. But if you remain present, grounded, and at peace, their noise has nowhere to land. Over time, they will notice. They'll realize that you don't respond the way you used to, that their tactics no longer control you, that you refuse to spend your energy on arguments that go nowhere. And in that realization, their interest fades because toxic people are addicted to conflict. And if you don't supply it, they move on. So stay present, not combative. Protect your energy by choosing where to engage and where to walk away. Remember, peace is not found in proving you're right. It's found in knowing you don't need to fight at all. Choose presence over battle, and toxic people will find no reason to keep knocking on your door. Thank you. Walking away once with finality is one of the most powerful choices you can make when dealing with toxic people. They thrive on repetition, on cycles of conflict, apology, and manipulation. They count on you coming back, giving another chance, or engaging in yet another round of their games. But when you walk away with certainty and without looking back, you break that cycle. You send the clearest message possible. I will no longer participate in this. And sometimes that is the strongest response you can ever give. Leaving doesn't always have to be dramatic. It doesn't require shouting, slamming doors, or making long speeches about why you're done. In fact, the quieter it is, the more powerful it feels. Because toxic people expect resistance. They expect you to fight. They expect you to argue. And when you simply walk away calmly and finally, you deny them the drama they wanted. You replace noise with clarity. It's important to understand that walking away is not weakness, it is wisdom. Wisdom is staying in an environment that keeps draining you, convincing yourself that things will change when all the evidence shows otherwise. Wisdom is recognizing that you cannot heal in the same place that keeps breaking you. Wisdom is realizing that your energy, your time, and your peace are too valuable to be wasted on endless cycles that never improve. Walking away is not giving up, it is choosing yourself. Of course, walking away is not easy. It takes courage to step out of the familiar, even when the familiar is toxic. It takes strength to leave behind people who once mattered, relationships you invested in, or situations you thought would be different. But the pain of walking away once is far less than the pain of staying stuck for a lifetime. And every step you take away from what poisons you is a step toward what heals you. Finality is the key. Walking away loses its power if you keep returning. Toxic people test your resolve. They will call, they will promise, they will try to guilt you, and they will attempt to pull you back in. But when you make the decision once and stick to it, you cut off their access. You show them that your peace is not negotiable. That is when they finally understand that you mean it. Walking away doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't mean you wish them harm. It simply means you respect yourself enough to stop staying where you are not valued, where you are drained instead of supported. And in that act of walking away, you reclaim your freedom, you reclaim your clarity, you reclaim the ability to focus on what truly matters. So remember this. Sometimes the loudest statement you can make is not with words, but with footsteps. Sometimes the strongest boundary is distance. And sometimes the only way to win against toxicity is not to fight, not to argue, not to explain, but to walk away once with finality. Because once you do, toxic people know they no longer have access to you. And that, more than anything, is the end of their power. IQ. At the end of it all, dealing with toxic people is not about changing them. It's about strengthening yourself, setting unshakable boundaries, responding with calm silence, detaching from their approval, standing in self-respect, choosing presence over battle, and finally walking away with conviction are not just strategies, they are acts of self-protection and self-love. Each step pulls back your energy from the grip of manipulation and places it firmly back into your hands. The more you practice these, the more untouchable you become. Because toxic people only have power when you give them access. The moment you refuse to fuel their games, they lose interest. You cannot control who tries to provoke you, but you can control how you respond. You cannot stop people from judging you, but you can stop carrying their judgment. And you cannot prevent toxic people from knocking, but you can decide never to open the door again. That is the freedom that comes when you live in clarity, presence, and strength. So choose peace. Choose boundaries. Choose silence when it protects your energy and distance when it restores your sanity. Do it once with conviction, and you'll find that toxic people will not want to come near you again, because they cannot thrive in the presence of someone who values themselves too much to play their games. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it is necessary. And once you understand that, you will never live the same way again. Thank you.